All right. Hello, hello, guys. So, we are going to talk networking. And this is coming out of a lot of conversations that I have been having with people about networking, why to network, the purpose of networking, or people being frustrated when they're networking. And I'm seeing this. And I literally just had a conversation with somebody, and she said, I went to this event, but I didn't get any business from it. And, or, I've had this where people said, well, I went to the event and I was looking for clients, but I realized everybody else there had businesses. Or I went and I didn't find a client at that event. And I just want to preface this that I've had a business for 27 years and the majority of my business has been built through networking, whether it was intentional or not unintentional networking. So what do I mean by that? Intentional networking is it's specifically a networking event. Everybody is there for networking. Non-intentional networking is going out and just expanding your circle and expanding your influence. And I very strongly believe that you expand your circle, you expand your influence long before you actually need it. There was an old saying that used to say your network was your net worth. And I now say your community is your currency. And I have seen this over and over and over again in my life. And let me give you an example. Let's go back like 25 plus years ago. So I started my business in 1998. I was living in Ithaca, New York, and then I moved to North Jersey, Eben Bergen County, and I was doing my business there for about a year. And then I moved down to Central Jersey, and that doesn't seem like a big deal now because we have the internet and we have social media, and everybody kind of stays in touch. But this is back before the internet. I mean, this is like dinosaur age, right? And so when you moved, you really lost contact with your people. I mean, to move an hour and a half away when you were doing in-person appointments with people, that was a huge move. And so there was no way to stay in touch with people through FaceTime. There were no smartphones. Okay. So this is like archaic. And I remember I had this one client who lived in North Jersey, and I started to ask everybody, do you guys know anybody who lives in Central Jersey? Do you know anybody who lives in Central Jersey? And she said, I have a cousin who lives in the area. And so I called this cousin and I said, look, I'm moving into the area. I know you don't know me. Your cousin's a client of mine. I just really need to meet people. I need to get my name out in the area. Would you be willing to host an event and invite your friends over for me? And she said yes. And we went and did the event. Now, let me tell you, the three girls that she had, so it was her and three girls, none of them were interested in my products or services. So let's be clear, right? These were not going to become my clients. However, I said to them, I'm new in the area. I'm really looking to expand my circle. Do you guys know anybody that you could introduce me to? And I remember sitting in her home, and the four of them came up with 19 people that they gave me names and phone numbers for. And that's what started my business in that new area. And it really shows me the power of having one connection, one person who can lead you to many. And that's the idea with networking. It's making that one connection, that one relationship, and that one person who could lead you to many. The thing is when you're networking, you just don't know. So here's the pitfalls that I see people do. Number one is I see them show up for an event and they think at that event, someone is going to do business with them. Now, if that happens for you, that is a unicorn experience. That is a one in a million experience that there just happened to be somebody there who happened to be looking for the products and the services that you want at that magical special time. That is usually not what happens with networking. And so if that is what your expectation is, you will be grossly disappointed over and over again because you'll go to an event and you'll spend an hour there and you'll connect with people and think, I didn't get any business. That is not how networking works. Okay. Networking is to build your circle of influence. It's to build your community. It's for people to start to know you, start to like you, and start to trust you so that at some point when they need your products or services, they will think of you. Or when someone they know needs your products or services, they will think of you. That is the purpose of networking. It is not somebody's going to meet you today and do business with you. So that is probably the number one thing that I see when I was living in Colorado. This was, 10 plus years ago. I would host an event for an organization and we did a monthly event and I saw this over and over again. There were people, I called them the one-hit wonders. They would come to an event once and you would never see them again. And they would think, well, that event wasn't great. I didn't get any business. I see this now within our Hey Girl You Can community. We host both in-person and online networking events every single month. And we have people who they'll show up once and they'll never show show up again. And they're missing the whole point of networking. Networking, and whether you find my community or a different community, you want to find a community and you want to invest in that community. You want to show up over and over and over again so that people see you, they remember you, they start to get to know you. People do business with people that they know and that they like, right? And nobody's going to get to really know you in a 1 minute introduction. No one is really going to get to know you in even in our networking. And what we do is we do a lot of facilitating. So on Zoom, we do it in breakout rooms where you're sitting and you're having conversations with people. When we do it in person, we kind of do it like speed dating. So you're really having one-on-one connections. But even in that, when I meet somebody, that's maybe a 5 minute, 10 minute connection. It's when I have that connection over and over and over again that now I start to think, oh, I like this girl. I'm hearing what she's doing. I'm seeing that she's growing. There's a difference, right? Those are the people that I'm going to connect with. So that does not happen with a one and done. Networking, if you have a business and you want to build your business, part of your networking should be on a regular basis and that you find groups that have your ideal person. So, what am I looking for when I'm looking for an event? I'm looking for like, what is the energy? What is the vibe? I've been doing a lot of online networking, and these are easy to find, guys. You can go to Eventbrite, you can find online networking. If you want to come and check out our online networking, if you've never been, send me a message. I will send you a complimentary ticket if you want to just check it out for the first time. Because you have to find your right group, right? And I've been on some where for whatever reason, it just was not my vibe. The energy was low, or it just wasn't the type of people that I was looking to connect with. Like maybe I've gone to a couple where they've just been very hot, heavy dominated with men. And those aren't going to be people I'm going to do business with. Those are not my clients. I run a community for women, right? And so if it's all men who are there, those are not that. It's like finding a salmon in a trout pond, right? I'm in the wrong pond. I can't find what I'm looking for. So it might be, for example, if you have a business that's a brick and mortar business and you need people who live in your community, online networking may not be the best fit for you, because on online networking, it's going to be people maybe all over the world. But if you're a coach or you have a digital business or something where you could have anybody living anywhere do business with you, then online networking might totally be your jam. Right. I've been to some where literally I feel like the host is just reading off the screen. I mean, it's like I'm tired afterwards. Those aren't going to be my people, right? I want to be in a group where the women are energizing. They're all like, how can we help each other? How can we support each other? How can we get our name out? But it's you're playing the long game. And that's what people don't understand. You have to be invested in the long game. This is like planting seeds. You are planting seeds and you're waiting for them to bloom. And so part of networking too is also letting people know what you're looking for. So I do have a video, it's on YouTube, on how to really nail that introduction, because what I see a lot of people do is just mess it up right here. They do their introduction with what their title is. Hi, my name is Tara. I'm a realtor and I work for, Keller Williams or whatever. I don't, but let's say that's what it is. Or, hi, my name is Tara and I'm a life coach. Or, hi, my name is Tara and I sell blah, blah, blah. That will never get you anywhere when it comes to networking. Nobody cares what your title is. Instead, you want to talk about who you serve and who you're looking to connect with. Okay. Because remember, it's not necessarily the person there, it's who do they know. If you're in an event and there are 5 people there, like let's say you're on a Zoom event and there's 5 people there. If the average knows 500 people, that means that you have a potential of 2,500 people from that event. Now, if you're at an in-person event and let's say there's 20 people there, you're looking at thousands of potential people that you could be connected to. So I do have a video, you can check it out on my YouTube, on how to do your 1 minute intro in a way that really gets people thinking about who they can connect you with. The other thing I think is really important is to make sure that you follow up. And I also have another video on this, the most important thing to do after networking, because again, this is really key. I just attended a bunch of networking events this week. And let me tell you, very few of the people who were at these events follow up. And I will say this, I've been in 27 years in business. And from there, I've been like actively networking, like going to networking events since 2008. I think 2008 was probably maybe 2009. I don't know, somewhere around that. We'll just say 2010. So we're going to say 15 years of actively going to networking events. And guys, I can probably count on 2 hands the number of times that people have followed up. And I see this because it's easy to go to the event. It is difficult to do the follow up. And there's a saying, the fortune is in the follow up. that is where you make your money. It's in the follow up, it's connecting with people afterwards. And now I think it's easier than ever because now you connect with people on the online space. I always tell people give people digital love. Digital love is just an easy, free currency. It's when you meet somebody, go check out her Instagram, go like a bunch of photos, go share an inspirational post or something that she posted that you think your followers would like, whether that's on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or wherever you live, right, on the online space. But let me ask you, if you went to an event and I was there and we connected and I went home and I liked a bunch of your things and I shared a post that I thought was really great, wouldn't you all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that, right? And you would instantly feel more connected to me. And that's what networking is. It's connecting, it's building these relationships, and relationships take time. Okay. Just like dating, relationships take time. There's very few people who go on a first date and say, "Yeah, you're the one I want to marry." And even the ones who are like, "I kind of knew," right? They're still a getting to know each other, period. And that's what networking is. It's a getting to know people, it's building a relationship. And it's coming back month after month after month where people see you, see your face, hear what you've been doing, they get your energy. That's the other big thing. Are you showing up as an energy giver? Are you showing up as somebody who's there of how can I contribute? By definition, networking is mutually beneficial. It's not just what can you get. And if you walk into an event thinking, what can I get? You're probably not going to get much. So, one of the things I always like to do is I like to always have what I call an offer. What can I offer people who are there? So, for example, maybe you're a podcast host and you're looking for podcast guests. We have a blog, the Hey Girl You Can Got blog. So, I always offer people, hey, I'm always looking for guest bloggers. If you'd love to contribute a blog, of course, we have our own event. So when I'm networking, I always offer, hey, I would love for you to come as a guest to my networking event. But where could you cross promote? Maybe you don't have a blog and you don't have a podcast or anything, but could you connect with somebody there? And maybe you guys do a live together and you hop on LinkedIn or you hop on Instagram and you do a live and you cross promote to each other's audiences. Or maybe you're networking in person and you have a physical business. Is there a way that you could team up with another local business and do some kind of customer appreciation cross promotion? Maybe she hands out gift cards to your store and you hand out free passes to her gym or something like that. Like, how can you collaborate? And when I started my business, collaborating with other businesses truly was how I built my business. I found businesses in my area that had the ideal market, that the clients that I was looking for, but they were not a competitor to what I was doing. And I found ways that we could be mutually beneficial to each other so we could cross promote our businesses. And so that was really how I built. And I guess just after having these conversations recently with people who are feeling like, oh, they're a one and done. They show up to a networking event, we never see them again. This happens all the time in Hey Girl You Can, both in person and online. And I've seen this for years. Like literally when I lived in Colorado, I hosted two huge networking events. One was a monthly event and one was kind of like a big, huge event where we'd have hundreds of people. And I saw this over and over. So this is not a reflection of our event. I mean, I've had people say that, and this is very cool. I had somebody say, "Oh, this was the best online event I've ever been to." When people say stuff like that, that makes me so incredibly happy because that's what I want to create, a community where women want to come back. But I just see this over and over again. And it really, it makes me so sad because here's this business owner who wants to get out there, who wants to build their business, right? And yet they're putting forth effort. They're showing up and maybe investing an hour online and then wondering, why am I not getting results? Why isn't this working? Or they think networking is a waste of time. And that is not true, my friends. That is not true. Networking is so important. And I will say that everything that I have created, whether it was my book, my TEDx, even getting on Clubhouse, which is what initially built Hey Girl You Can, was because of my network. It was because of my circle. It was because of who I knew. It was because someone somewhere opened a door. Everything from my graphic artist for my book to my editor to the book to a friend who when I gave her my first draft and she worked for a publishing company, she lovingly said to me, "Tara, this is word vomit. This is not a book." And she took me to Barnes and Nobles and showed me a book format and what that was and how to create one. When I got my TEDx, it was talking to somebody who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody, and that person went to bat for me and said, "Hey, we need to get this girl on the stage." So all of my speaking has been from somebody hearing somebody who said, "Hey, you need this girl to speak." Like you just don't know the doors that will be opened because of your efforts, because of your networking. Clearly, our dogs think someone is coming to the house to kill us. Nobody is coming to the house, but their dogs think they are. Um, but oh, that's my daughter. She's causing all the dogs to bark. But networking is so imperative because you just don't know the door that you're going to open. And I really think, and I think this because of what I saw what happened with my book. I had built a community. I had been building a community. I had people who were kind of following our story when I was going through my divorce and my daughter's cancer. And when I went to write my book, and it was at a season in my life where I had no money and, had this calling to kind of write this book, but thought, how am I going to do this? I have no money to publish. I have no money to do anything, right? I was trying to get back on my feet. And it was my community that came together. And a friend said, do a GoFundMe. I felt very funny about that. I didn't really feel comfortable doing that. I prayed about it. I was like, is this really what I should do? And I will tell you, when we put that up within 1 month, my community funded our entire book. And what it made me realize is a couple of things. Number one, you build your community before you need it. I never, ever in a million years thought I was going to write a book, much less have my community support that, right? That was never on my radar. But I had built the community, never knowing that that was what it was going to do. So you build your community before you need it. Number two is that people are invested in your success. People are watching you. People see what you're doing. They see how you show up. And when you are doing something that serves others, that makes a difference, that wants to help other people, people will rally behind that. Like if you're doing something that's not just for you, but it's to make a difference, people will rally behind that. And if you have a business, it's probably because you want to help people. It's probably because you want to make a difference. It's probably because you see like, hey, this is something that I can help other people with. And so I think when you work with the right heart, the right spirit, the right integrity, and you're aligned with your purpose, the doors open. The right people show up, the right opportunities show up, and the people who are meant to connect and be with you will find you, right? Because you're showing up as the best authentic version of yourself. And that's the last part of networking. Networking is about being genuine. It's about being who you are. It's not showing up with a canned, here's my title, here's what I do, let me give you a business card. It's really about just going out there and making friends and making more friends and building your circle. And so people know you, but in a friend way, in a, I want to get to know you. I want to know what you're doing. I want to see, is there a way that we can collaborate? And then keeping in touch, because you know what happens is those last years, and somebody might not need your service right now, but you build that relationship, you stay in touch with that person, you connect with that person, and you don't know a year, 2, 3 years from now, that person is going to need and want your services. And I think one of the reasons this was very natural for me, like I think back, I never took a business class, I never took a class on networking. I had read some books, but I think one of the reasons this was very natural for me is that, again, back before the internet, I went to school for theater. And so I would do, you would audition and you would try to get a casting agent and you wanted to get seen by a director or whatever. And so you would have this list of casting agents that you wanted them to refer you for parts. And this is so funny. This is so old. So what we used to do is we would have postcards, like actual postcards made, and they would have your picture on them and they would have your stats, your height, your weight, all brown hair, brown eyes, whatever. And it would have your contact number. And this is, again, you want to talk about how old. I had a beeper because back then, if you didn't have it, I lived in New Jersey. And if you didn't have a 212 number, that was a New York number, they didn't want to work with you. And so we didn't have cell phones. So I had a beeper that had a 917 New York number on it. And so I had these postcards. And so every time you would get booked, every time you would get a call back, every time you would get cast in a new show, anytime you did anything that was like an update to your resume, you would send out these postcards to these casting agents. And it was basically a way of saying like, hey, I'm still here. Don't forget about me. When you have a role that's right for me, I'm here. You know, it was a way to get you in front. And so it was a great book. It was called Acting as a Business. It was like the old school Bible. And the book really talked about that the reason most actors weren't successful was because they didn't treat their acting like a business. They thought, well, I've honed my skill. I've gone to school. I'm taking all the classes. I'm in the dance class. I'm in the improv class. Like I'm honing my skill. But they didn't really understand that it was a business. You had to market yourself. And the people who were getting booked were the people who understood that their craft was a small part of it, but running it like a business was the bigger part of it. And that was it made such an impression on me. And so I was like, okay, I have to work like a business. I have to market myself. And so I was doing the postcards, and every time I would go out, and it was to keep myself in front of these casting directors all the time. And I was a working actor, for years, for a couple of years before I decided to leave that and pursue my business full time. But I think it was that mindset that then contributed really well into networking with my business, because I had that same mindset. Somebody might not want my products and services today, but that doesn't mean that they want a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now. And I want to make sure that I'm in front of them and I'm building that relationship and that they're hearing from me, whether that was through a newsletter or an email or a paper, back then, like a paper newsletter. And now it's so easy to do that because we're so connected through social. So now that could be through a LinkedIn newsletter or a blog, or just going back and having those people on your, Instagram or whatever that you're connecting with, that you're following up with, that you're checking in to see what they're doing. If you do that and you plant those seeds and you're in for the long game, your networking will explode your business. Because if you have a business, it is really, really, no matter what it is that you do, it's going to be people, right? And I don't care how savvy we get all over technology and stuff, it'll never replace genuine relationships with people. And I should say this, until you get to a point where you are so big that people just know your name and they go, oh, well, I've heard that name and I've heard of her. And so, for example, Tony Robbins, right? Like, I've heard of Tony Robbins. I can trust that this is a big name. So, I'm going to buy his book or I'm going to invest in his seminars because he's Tony Robbins. But for most of us, we don't have that brand name recognition, right? People don't know who we are yet. And so we have to be willing. We have to be willing to do the work, to grow, to get people to know us, to be out there, to be consistently every single week building and building and building that pipeline of people. And some of them may do business with you and some of them might not. And some of them might refer you to somebody and somebody might not. But you've got to show up again and again and again and again. And I just, so many times in my business, it was just the showing up again and again and again that made the difference. It wasn't that I did anything great. It was just that I was willing to show up again and again. And so I encourage you, find your niche. Now, how do you find networking events? Well, there's tons of ways to do that. You can certainly go through Facebook and look through your community groups. Eventbrite has tons of networking events. You could go there. I actually find more probably on Eventbrite than I do on Facebook. You can just go through like your local, like search, Google search local networking events for wherever area that you live in. Decide if you want to do in person or virtual. I do a combination of both. That is going to be highly dependent on the kind of business that you have. Again, if you have a brick and mortar business, a virtual may not be relevant for you. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for. And are you looking for something like a chamber where it's going to be a lot of local businesses? That's also going to be maybe a little heavily male dominated. Maybe you have a business that doesn't matter. If you're looking at, for a business that's specifically for women, then keep that in mind when you're looking at your groups. That is one of the ways that I determine my groups. If it's not more than 50% women, that's not going to be the best group for me. And then go check out the other videos. You want to check out how to introduce yourself when you're networking. That is on my page. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll send you the link. And then go check out the one thing that's most important to do after networking so that you get real results. But when you start to implement these and put these things into practice, you won't worry about where am I going to get business from, because there's 350 million people just in the United States. That's before you even get onto online networking and open up the whole world. There are tons and tons and tons of people, but they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And that takes time. So drop your questions in the chat or underneath. I will be sure to message anybody who asks any questions. I want you to become a master networker and feel so confident, but I don't want to see you fall into the pitfall that I'm seeing over and over again with people, is the one hit wonder, the one and done. Doesn't work like that. So go plant your seeds, plant your garden, and wait for those flowers to bloom. Bye, guys.